Hi, Fiber friends. Welcome to the Fiber Artist Podcast, and thank you for tuning in today. 15% off. That's right. You get 15% off all your favorite fibers at neromastudio.com using the code PODFRIEND. Rope, wool, yarn, string, recycled silks. Head to neromastudio.com and enter the code PODFRIEND at checkout for 15% off. Now, today's guest is the wonderful and talented Tammy Kanat, based in Melbourne, Australia. Tammy and I had a great talk. She tells us all about transitioning from her successful decade-long jewelry business to working on the loom and how that filled a need to be making that she didn't even quite know she had at the time. We talk about the highs and lows of being a creative. We chat NFTs and making art for the metaverse. And we even try to tackle the difficult conversation around copying. It's a good one, you guys. You can find Tammy online at tammykanat.com and on Instagram at Tammy Kanat. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment for that algorithm. Now, without further ado, here's Tammy. You look great, and I love the background.
Yeah, no, the background's cool. I like that.
Yeah, super cool. So yeah, if you could start off just by introducing yourself, just first and last name, and where people can find you online and on Instagram.
So my name is Tammy Kanat, and I am on Instagram under Tammy Kanat, or my website's www.tammykanat.com. And that's probably, the Instagram's probably, the best place just to get a bit more sort of action and see where I'm at this moment. I'm better at my Instagram than my website, that's for sure. And what was the other question?
Well, that was basically it for now. I know I have been following you on Instagram for a very long time. I started out, I think, just sort of discovering fiber art around 2013, 2014, and then got much more into it, like started making and weaving in like the end of 2014, and then, kind of turned it into like a money making sort of hobby in 2015. But I feel like I knew of you that whole time. So I think you're definitely you've been in this space longer than me. And your work is so recognizable. It's like when you post something, we know it's immediately your work. And I just think you're such a wonderful artist. So I just would love to know, how did you get started?
In about 2000, I had two very young children, 13 months apart, and I used to take them on walks in the pram. And one day I'd often go into this shop where this lady made jewelry and sold stones and beautiful colours. And one day I asked her to design me a pair of earrings to go out with. And so she did that, and I chose the stones, and I went out with my friends. And then they said, "Oh, we love your earrings. Can you get us some?" So I said, sure. So then I somehow fell into selling jewelry, which I'd never really thought of before, and I'd never really connected to my creativity. And then I just discovered I was creating something unique, not really meaning to. And so that was kind of the beginning of my creative journey, and that grew into a very big business.
Wow.
Where I had jewelry makers and staff, and we would sell it all over Australia and New Zealand. And I think the biggest thing about this jewelry business, the biggest thing I learned is, one, that I loved creating, and I loved the colours and exploring how you could connect the stones. And number two was when it grew too big, where I couldn't actually have, it was more about keeping the prices down, following up invoices, and the commercial thing took over. I realised I was much more about the artistic side and the creativity than the commercial side.
Right.
But I needed to go through that to realise that.
Right. The business side is, I think, often what hinders people from growth. I mean, even myself in my business right now, I think it's like, that's so the tricky part of it all, is being able to handle the administrative part of it, because it's such a nightmare, but it's something you have to do. But it kind of, and it takes you away a lot of times from the creativity, But yeah.
So I think, I suppose just, it was from that point that I walked away from the jewelry business, which was called Mink Jewelry, which was very hard because it was a big part of my identity.
Right. And you had
And it was sort
staff.
of, and I had staff and I
Yeah.
had rent and I'd really, had built up a business that was not, it wasn't really the thing that I learnt that I was good at,
Mm.
because I always just sort of wanted to spend more time making the pieces. I wasn't time efficient. I've never been time efficient. It's always been about the creative side, not about the uh, efficiency side.
Right.
So I kind of walked away from that, and it was so kind of empty and scary, but I'd really fallen out of love of it. And I knew that when I started trying to sell to people, not really caring with how good they looked in the jewelry, I was like, you're not you're not connecting with your truth. That is not
Right.
your truth anymore. Because it was always about, like, I loved when people would walk out of a beautiful gift for someone, or they walked out with the jewelry feeling fabulous because they're going on a night out. And I just realized that when I was desperate to sell so that I could reach rent and pay staff, and I was like, not good for the soul.
Right.
So I walked away from that. And I know this is a long way to get to it, but that was when I literally put the creativity aside until my next journey came along, which was the weaving.
Right. Wow. So how long was the jewelry business again? Did you say 12 years? Okay.
12 years.
Wow. So this is actually from what, 2000 to 2012-ish. So were you selling, were you doing, like wholesale to retailers, or, online, I guess, was starting to ramp up like in the middle of this, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was selling, wholesale to retailers, and I set up very early on the website, and you could buy the jewelry on the website, and yeah, yeah.
Were you ever kind of thinking about having like your own like retail sort of setup, like a brick and mortar type of setup?
Well, I sort of had an unusual situation, because the fun bit of the business, which I loved, is that the studio crossed over as a shop,
Yeah,
as
nice.
a retail outlet. So people would come in and we'd do like custom designs for people with the jewelry.
Oh,
So
fun.
that bit was fun, because, yeah, you were kind of connecting with it. But the piece that was still really missing for me was, I wasn't a jeweler. I was the person designing it, and I had jewelry makers making it. And I always just found translating what I wanted to create.
Right.
And I think there was always the feeling of, like, there was a lack of freedom, because I had to rely a little bit on also their artistic expression of what I was communicating. So I
Right.
didn't have full, full creative license.
Right, right. Oh gosh, that's so interesting. Because of course if you have to scale a business like this too, you have to have people helping you to actually create the pieces. And you couldn't be making each individual little thing by yourself.
Mm.
And even I guess in the beginning it was you were designing, and with the lady that you had initially started, like the first set of earrings, right? It was
Mm.
your design, and then you asked her to actually make them.
Yes.
So if I'm understanding right, you wanted to be making, you wanted to have your hands in it,
Yeah.
and so therefore it was not quite what you were looking for, which is actually amazing. I mean, because you kept it going for so long. Because I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
that's an interesting conversation, because I don't think I realized, like, the satisfaction I was getting from it was the creating.
yeah,
But when I moved into weaving and I got to have the creative idea and the creation, it was just like so beautiful. Like, it was
right,
just a whole new level. I mean, for 12 years, like, I loved still the exploring, the creativity, but it was a new level when I actually decided to do also the craft on my own.
Right. So you shut down the business, and how long did it take between shutting that down and like, did you have a sort of lost period where you were like, what am I going to do with myself? Your kids are 12-ish at the time, right? 12, 13. And at that point they start to get slightly more, independent. I'm assuming my kids are 8 and 10. So I'm like, I'm assuming at that point I can step back a little bit, except for the driving them everywhere thing. But yeah, like, I imagine you're going through sort of a personal transition at that time. What were you, what was happening inside?
I think that it was interesting. I remember, I'm very close with my sister-in-law, and she's a meditation teacher, and she was sort of on her own journey and studying psychotherapy and all these things. And we were always laugh because I was like the business busy, and she was kind of the very just more relaxed. And I remember sitting at her kitchen table and just saying to her, like, I don't know how to get out of this. Like, and she just said to me, you have to be uncomfortable, and that's okay to be uncomfortable. And I'll just never forget her saying that. I was like, oh, right, okay, like I got to just hang in there, because it wasn't correct anymore, and it wasn't serving me or my family, or it was not a good space to be. So I think it was not long after that, and we decided to do some renovations on our house. So I was really lucky because I could put my creative energy into that.
Yep.
And I also I tried so many different ideas. Like I think I tried to set up a website where I found interesting product from all over the world, and I was going to sell it on the website, and I just had shipping, and it was just chaos because I'm not organized.
Right. The logistics part is the worst.
The worst. Like I could source like really interesting products, and I have some to the day and met some awesome people, but you get me to try and upload it on my website and get it out to wherever and get payment. It's not a good combination. So I went down that path. So I sort of tried different things, different creative outlets whilst renovating our house. And in that process, I stumbled across a beautiful tapestry that I think was maybe from New York or somewhere overseas. And I really wanted it for our house. I was just like, I really love this. And I couldn't get it, and it wasn't possible, and I didn't. Anyway, I think I just seen an image of it. So I ended up thinking, oh, maybe I could make this. Maybe I could just like get some wool and create it. And anyway, so that is what I went and did.
Wow. Do you remember when, what the source was, that original piece that inspired you?
It was made in the 1960s or 50s, something like that.
Okay. Oh, so you were finding a vintage, like one of a kind, probably.
Because it was before the whole weaving tapestry. Like no one even knew what weaving and tapestries were. It was before the whole phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, took off. Like at that point, everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that?
Right, right. Yeah, you were right before it really started to kind of bubble up.
Yeah, it was really early. And all that I knew was that when you're going to probably have to cut this out. There's actually gardeners outside our window with a whippersnipper.
Oh, it's
so
okay.
Let me know.
Well, I don't hear them yet.
Okay.
Did he?
I just thought I'd better let you know.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll see how we go. It was, I think the thing, okay, there were two things that happened. First of all, the wool shop I went to had been there for like 50 years. Gorgeous, older women in there, and they had this area out the back with just really cool vintage wool. And when I started off actually with what do you call it? Ka-ching, like when you weave and then you go ka-ching, like that kind of weaving.
Like the floor loom? Like the rigid head loom?
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of those. So I sort of started off with that,
And they were teaching you, the ladies at this place were teaching you? Or you just bought your own and tried it?
Just bought my own.
Oh, wow.
Just read instructions. And, and at that time there wasn't much on the internet.
Yeah.
But I just found what I could, and I just straight away I was like, ooh, I really like this.
Wow.
It's connecting with me. And I'm going to digress here a little bit because I think this is relevant. So there was a familiarity with it. There was a comfort, there was a happiness, the colours of the wool, the feeling of the texture. And now what I realise, I think I was maybe 5 or 6, and I used to sit by the fireplace and I used to do latch hook with a pillow, and I could do that for hours. But I didn't realise.
You forgot about it, right?
It was never pointed out, or I never noted, like, this makes me really, sing.
Oh, wow.
This is, so I feel that that's pretty awesome.
Definitely.
That was there. It just felt so familiar.
It was in you from a very, very young age to be playing with yarn and fiber, and you didn't even realize it. Because all that time from when you were a really little kid to, to when you found weaving, had you experimented with any sort of fiber crafts or anything?
No.
Yeah, wow. No. So it was gone for a while.
It really just, it was always I remember school projects, I was always more focused on what the project looked like than the content. It was definitely, and, little things that I remember, I used to look at wood and kind of see pictures in the wood, little, I don't know, I would see little animals, or I think that my mind definitely always had the creativity. But I think as we did in my growing up, it wasn't something that was kind of taken like a career.
Right.
If I said, it just wasn't something, it was just more not something that was ever investigated. And part of me, maybe it just wasn't ready to come out yet. But I think it was always within me.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, let's take it even further back. I'm curious about what you were like as a kid, and even through your high school years. What were you focusing on at the time? Were you a good student? If you didn't truly find this creative outlets for yourself at this age, what were you like?
Okay, this is so interesting. It's so lovely talking to you, and I'm just trying to be as honest as I can.
Yeah, please.
I think that's so helpful just for everyone, because I listen to a lot of different books and podcasts, and I love when people can share their truth, whatever that is. I think when I was growing up, I used to play tennis, and I got hair. Sorry.
I play tennis too, by the way. I feel very kindred with you. Even with being a little kid, I remember making one tiny little embroidery piece, but then I didn't do much until much later. So yeah, it's weird. There's a lot of parallels here.
This is amazing. That's quite an incredible. So, and everyone was like, "You're the tennis player."
Mm-hmm.
That was up until about 12 or something like that. I think it was probably 12, and I was an A+ student. I was a very good student, and we're talking up till 12.
Okay.
And I was probably an A-type personality, confident. And then in year 7, a few things happened to me. One was there was a girl at school who was quite a bully and did bully me, and it really shattered my world. It really was just awful. I don't even know what I did. I don't even think it was about me.
No, it was not. I'm sure she was jealous or something,
But she did this thing where she literally just, no one was allowed to talk to me. I mean, can you imagine doing that to a 12-year-old? That was not talk to me. I'm just being really blunt here. And that was huge. I feel like when that happens to a 12-year-old, so from then on, and I think she organised, I was invited to parties and all that crap that goes on in different ways in social media today.
No, but this is at the most, such a, I can't find the word, such an important age. This is the age where all of that stuff really starts to matter, being, quote unquote popular, and this adolescent period of your life. And then this is what's going on. This is so heartbreaking.
It was really intense. And I think I literally went from this really confident person. And then I decided, oh my God, I can't try hard or do well because if I do, I'm going to get bullied. That's what happened to me. So
Oh.
from then on, academics, everything, tennis, I just did not want to shine because to me, shining was associated with bullying.
Oh my gosh, that's
So,
so terrible.
well, I don't think it's, it's interesting. It is and it isn't because I also think it's given me a beautiful depth and a humbleness and a, we all navigate, we learn. Like
Right.
it was just meant to happen. And who knows, maybe it wouldn't have given me the depth that I get to have with my art now. So I think in a way, it's that thing, it's the light and the shadow. These things are blessings as
They
well.
are. They are.
And,
It's true.
I think it made me, yeah, the person. But so you were saying go back. So I think it was tennis, good academics, and then it just became preoccupied with friends, social life for a long time. And then
So you were able to have at least a few good friends in your life throughout.
it was maybe just a couple of months
Okay.
that happened.
Yeah.
But it was just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Like it created a kind of a fear,
Of course. Yeah.
that you get like that. Yeah, it was a vulnerability. But I think then I kind of just got through school, and then I I traveled a lot. I didn't really kind of pursue any. I went to university for a little bit, but I studied photography and media. Sort of dabbled in different things, but I couldn't find I don't know what it was. And I think it wasn't until I kind of got married and I had kids and all of that no, I think another important thing I need to add to this.
Yes.
I think it was not long after I got married, I think I still wasn't connecting with my truth. I know I'm sounding very deep here, but I was not connecting with my truth. I got married and suddenly I was meant to be like, oh, I'm now
Right. Just like a wife. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay. And it was like quite confronting. So I had quite a big dip just after we got married. And I was thinking, I remember saying to my husband, like, oh God, sorry you married me. Because I really went from, and I think I'd always been this creative person holding on of fear of something, of like judgment, or people would attack me, or I don't know exactly. But it was that fall. And again, the light, that fall was when my jewelry started, when I found my creativity, when I was like, I've got nothing to lose, because I think I'd got so low, I was free.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think that happens to so many people because it is. It's like, and especially with the kids. Well, for me, it was. I can only speak for myself, I guess. But it was totally at that time when the kids were really, really young, and like you lose yourself because you become just a mom, and it is not everything. Like we're people with lots of dimensions, and being a mother is wonderful and it's great, and it's in that way. But there's so much more, and I feel like that's the point where we seek it out. Like, what else am I going to be doing? Because this alone cannot make me happy. And maybe that, I don't think that's true for everyone, but I think it's true for creative people who need to create. And so at that point, you realize that it's not going to be enough. Like, just like, I don't want to diminish motherhood, but it isn't enough for so many people, So I totally get that. I think you need that low to kind of kick your ass into gear and be like, but there's more. There's something more out there for me, Yeah.
But I think also that low gets rid of that fear.
Yeah.
As well. Because when you are fearful of it won't be good enough, I'm going to fail, people are going to judge me, silly thing to do, like all those voices in your head, when you actually get to a point where you're like, that all doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
It's relief. It's just awesome. And I mean, some people call it return to Saturn, or I don't know, whatever. I don't know if you've heard of it, whatever that is, that transition that we go from childhood into adulthood, and that sort of realization is hard and awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And how was your when you were picking up all these when you're finding yourself? How was your husband during all this time? Was he just like, let her do her thing, or like what was he thinking?
He was, I mean, it was interesting because he's very, he's been in the same job for, I don't know, 30 years and, family business, very stable. And I'm all over the shop. We're like chalk and cheese. So he's very stable, quite a rock in that way.
That's the perfect partnership, honestly.
Well, yeah, look, it was. I felt so blessed for that because he created a beautiful stability. But I think he also respected and was kind of in awe of my kind of messy freedom.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Oh, for sure.
He kind of. So I felt like he was always very supportive of that. Can you hear the blower now?
I can, but it's okay. I think I can hear you more,
sure.
So I think it's okay.
Okay. I'm not sure whether, because he doesn't need to do this right in front of my house. I might just tell him. Give me one sec, because he's going to get close.
Okay.
One sec.
Ooh, now I can hear it.
I'm just having an interview. It's not your fault. Is it possible to start at the back or? Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you. That's hysterical.
It is funny.
Yeah. So what did you just say? That was interesting. What did you?
Talking about your husband. Oh, being in a very stable position while you're given the space to explore.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because they're my kids. Because this was before this kind of really low moment happened before I had my children, and so by the time they kind of came along, I'd kind of already connected with the creativity, or they were very young. So they've just grown up with like stones all over the house and just colour and things and, and now it's wool. And so that they've just grown in this incredibly colourful environment.
Yes. The artistic mess that is, the beautiful mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. And are they creative in any way? Do they weave with you ever, or is it something that they have not taken an interest in?
So I have 3 children.
Oh, 3.
So I have a 22-year-old daughter. So she's actually doing her honours in psychology. And I know this sounds, she is incredibly creative, but it's in a different way. But it's still artistic, how she thinks about things. And so I can see that creativity come through her. So it's not as much about the way I show creativity, but there's a freedom in her thoughts, which I think that is creativity, a freedom in thoughts.
Yeah.
And then my next daughter is actually doing her honours in interior design, and she's also an artist. And she is super creative. I think she's brilliant. I'm not biased, even though I'm her mum, but she really has a beautiful eye, a beautiful aesthetic. Really interesting watching a 21-year-old, how they process creativity and what it means. Like, she's combined a lot more the spiritual experience with the aesthetic experience and creating spaces for the soul. And, I think their generation is much more expansive in their thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like much more self-aware than any generations prior. And even I just think about the logistical part of any artistic practice now is so different than even 20 years ago, because so much of it is done digitally, and like even the act of creating is so different. Like when they're laying out a room or whatever, it's like all done digital. It's very interesting, I think.
Yeah. But one thing I do find, like, I think the beauty is, well, I noticed with her, but she still brings in all the traditional aspects. So it's this beautiful combination of tradition of fabrics and mixed in with digitalization, mixed in with meditation. Like
Wow.
it was like such a gamut of information they have, which is a positive
That's very
and a negative.
cool. Have you collaborated with her on any projects?
We oh my God, we like I sometimes think like our home is like an art studio. Like I work on my own, but we are constantly sharing ideas and concepts, and I feel like we collaborate all the time on just our processes and thoughts. We did one trip a long, gosh, maybe 2016. We went to the Milan Design Fair
Oh,
together,
nice. So
and I
fun.
exhibited there.
Oh,
Oh,
you
so
did.
much
Oh, that's amazing.
fun. It was pretty cool. That was like very early days. Um, but the interesting story about that is the people I exhibited with were the people who I'd found their products for the website that I was going to do before I started weaving.
Oh, wow. That's
And so we
awesome.
connected and they contacted me, and one makes beautiful vases with wood and another one mirrors with rocks, and then I was the textile aspect. So we had an awesome exhibition. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's so cool. Did you make a lot of contacts while you were there? Like that followed through? Like was that sort of like a
yeah,
fruitful experience for you?
interesting question. Yeah, I did meet some really interesting people, and people I've just watched grow. Like I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
heard of Rivershan, and just incredible watching these creatives just develop and have children, and I don't know, like
Yeah.
probably you and me, like you're kind of on each other's journey. It's quite phenomenal
It's
that
wonderful.
whole. It is really absolutely wonderful. I think that's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Oh, it's great. And then your third child?
My third child is a son,
Uh-huh.
so he's about to be 19, and he is he's studying business marketing, but he's just in first year. But he is he is creative as well. I feel like they're all free spirits. They're
Yeah.
kind of, and he's just itching to travel and just go and experience the world.
Good for him. I mean, that's so the age to go do it.
I
19.
think for
19
two
was fun.
so much, and for 2 years they were like, all my kids were like, they missed, as your kids, like
Right.
2 years, really important years in their life to explore the world and friendships and all of that.
Oh, right. Your son was like graduating from high school during COVID, in the middle of COVID, huh? Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty tough. But I think I remember hearing somewhere, it's so true. Like, in schools, they always try and teach you resilience, whereas that was not a subject we had to deal with in those 2 years.
I
We just
know.
all had to. Again, I know I keep bringing this up, but again, it's the light and the shadow.
It's complete. No, it's absolutely true, though. I mean, it's all those challenges that make us like stronger people. Imagine if you had nothing to worry about in life. You end up
Yeah.
soft. You end up soft and naive.
But when you're telling them at the time, this is going to be good for you, it doesn't go down
Of
well.
course not.
It's
Of
like,
course
it's
not.
not fun now.
I know.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I'm just trying to think about I think that my journey in tapestry is
Hmm.
quite interesting, how it evolved.
Yes, that was going to be my next question, actually, because I know you're starting out on this rigid heddle loom, and then you clearly take a shift, to the circular, like round and different
Hmm.
shapes. So tell me how that all comes about.
So once I've done the rigid head or loom, is that what it's
I
called? I
think
don't even know
so. I think so. I don't know. I
whatever. That ka-ching thing,
yes.
whatever. And once I'd done that, I then decided I was ready to get a big, like, standing loom and work out how to warp up from YouTube in a really dodgy way. And my husband built me this loom. We went to the hardware store and I found this, like, random loom you could build, which I still use to this day. So it's just been awesome. I would never have imagined these pipes would have so much use. And so we built that. And then I was just teaching myself and I made quite a big square piece. And it was kind of following the one that I loved. So it was one of the first pieces I'd done. And then from then it just became this obsession of like, if literally like a piece was on, a piece was finished, a piece was off, a piece was on, finished, just couldn't. I always, and to this day, I've always got to have something on the loom. Without it, I feel really anxious.
Oh,
Like I just feel
interesting.
lost.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. It's really quite intense.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, it just has to be in the process. And so I did quite a few square works, and then I realized I really need to learn a few more techniques because they're all a bit wobbly. And I contacted the Australian Tapestry Workshop, which is in Melbourne, and I ended up doing a whole lot of workshops there. And again, it was like no one was doing it. It was like
Yeah.
it was me, and I think everyone was like 85.
Yeah, because there was a point in the 70s where weaving and macrame were really huge, and they're probably, reminiscing from that point.
Maybe, I don't know. It was just me, and like everyone was much more older
Yes.
than me, which was fine. And so I did all these different levels. Like they had the starting one, and then I was like, oh, I enjoyed that. Then I went to the next level up, next level, next level, and then I eventually got to the master class, where I really learnt the techniques, like very traditional techniques of weaving,
Right.
and how to walk up properly. And so that took my weaving to another level, a much more, I think, professional level.
Yeah.
And kept pushing and experimenting. And then within that, I started to play with circles within the square. So I did some work with circles within the square. So that was kind of just dabbling away, like coming out, the circle thing. And then I went to Milan with my daughter, as I mentioned, in 2016, I think it was. And at Milan, I met a lady there who's actually from Melbourne. And I know we had this discussion that there's a whole lot of circles at the fair. Why is everything circles? And to the fair, I took square works. And I got home, and that was when I was like, I'm going to make a circle. How can I connect this? Where can I put the warp? This is going to work. And I remember like rolling around the floor, fighting with the whatever I could to try and make the circle connect and the warp connect. And it was just such a buzz making that kind of happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my very dodgy version of that, as you do. And then my husband helped me fine tune it so it actually didn't fall apart, the circle. And it was interesting because when I first started doing the circles, didn't get a lot of love.
Interesting. Really? Really? I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Were you doing perfect circles? Or like, were you trying to make them perfect circles, or were they wobbly?
They were always wobbly.
Yeah.
Always wobbly. And it wasn't until, and I felt good about them. I was like, I don't understand. I really like these. They're cool. And then I ended up getting into, it's called the design files, which is a big kind of, how do I explain? Like they find new things, like interior designers, artists, a big kind of Instagram. She had a huge following, and I ended up getting a photographer to take some photos of my circular works and sending them into the design files, and then they put them on their platform, and it was just like, it went off.
Oh,
it
nice. Oh, it's from design files. Yeah. I know them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was awesome.
When you first started playing around with weaving, did you have in your mind, because I feel like, you must have an entrepreneurial spirit because of how far you took the jewelry. Were you hoping and wanting this practice to become something, full-time and monetized and something you'd be selling, or, what were you thinking about it at the time?
Well, I think as an artist, I mean, that validation when other people like your work and want to buy it, I think we've all got healthy egos that, that there's both the monetary thing and the validation that people are enjoying what you're doing. But I just kind of, again, where the work started off and what I was selling them for and the amount of hours I would put in, it wasn't for the money, that was for sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just more like I was honored that people were enjoying my work and that they wanted it. Like, how awesome. Like, that's so cool.
Plus,
and I love doing it.
Early on, it's not like you can, it's hard, not that you can't, but it's hard to charge what it is worth as far as time and, material costs and all this, all these things that people say, like, don't undervalue your work. It's hard at first when I feel like, because you were really early on, I think, in this, this trend of whatever it is right now. But to justify saying I needed to, it costs this much and this is what it's worth. But people would probably look at you sideways like, I don't think so, Even now, I think people struggle with pricing what a piece is worth, I kind of call this imposter syndrome that I think most artists have, and we all have, and it's that thing of like, wow, I can't really ask that for it, and I, God, who do I think I am? Like, it's that, and I always, my husband runs all my business, my financial. We established that that is not my skill. And that's okay. It's good. Yeah. It's good for you to be aware of it and then hand it off. Yes. Yeah. Delegating is key.
What he does. He's really good at that.
That's great.
Also, I think as an artist, it's really hard to value yourself, like really hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, we don't look in the mirror and go, wow, I look fantastic. It's, it's really difficult to do that. So, even with him doing it, I'm always like, oh, God, can we do that? Or I feel uncomfortable. But I suppose the market at the end of the day will make the call.
Yeah, yeah.
And if there's people there who want it enough, feel enough pleasure for what you're doing and you're creating from your heart with authenticity and truth, I think that it will hopefully resonate with someone else and they'll value it. And if they don't, well, then it's not connecting with them. And
right. That person won't be your buyer. It will be the next person who it does connect with. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's really important as artists to respect yourself, your creativity. It's not even just the piece you finish with. It's the work you've done before to get to that point.
Yeah.
Is also important. It's not just the piece. So, you look at some artwork, and let's just say a Jackson Pollock or whatever, it wasn't just the Jackson Pollock piece he created. It was all the thoughts and emotions and experiments he did well and truly before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is, for artists, that's where you actually have to look at that value as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's half the reason I do this podcast, because there's the work that we see, right, on Instagram or wherever, but I think it's hard to get the actual artist's story out. And I think the story is so important, like an important element of what goes into the work, and when people get to know like who you are, where you came from and how you got to be, Tammy Kanat, then it's like it all goes into figuring out what the work means, even though that's up for interpretation, for whoever is looking at it. But I think it's like getting the full story is so important,
I actually feel really grateful that you've asked me, and I think there's definitely times I feel more comfortable to share, and other times where I just need to get in my little cave and just do what I need to do. And but I feel that it's really, it's so beautiful to engage and share with other artists, because it is very solitary.
It is. Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Are you, do you have help in the studio? Do you have any studio assistants, or are you doing everything yourself?
This is such a good question. It is such a good question, because I can't get help. I need to do it all myself.
Yeah.
Because to me, it is about, I don't plan anything. It's the journey. I'm in the process. How do I pass that on to someone?
I know. It perplexes me how people do. Like, there are people that actually can pass it on, and it's, it's not any less, the work is not any less good or important or whatever. But yeah, I don't understand, like, on a practical level, how it's done.
Well, I suppose you've got to work out what's fulfilling for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think for me, maybe after doing the jewelry and having people, working with me and getting other people to do it. And, I just feel so blessed that I can create it myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like I did that. I tried that. And I love the freedom of not, I don't know, it's like someone reading a book with me. I don't want to read a book with someone else. I want to read the book on my own.
Yeah.
That's fulfilling for me. But sometimes it's hard, like, because I've got to find the balance of, commissions I'll take on, and I will give every single piece 150% love. I will never do that again to go, though that earring looks great on you when it doesn't. I just will not do that,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's one of those things that I just have to stick with my truth, which is to do the art, do it with 100% love. And I mean, probably a year, maybe I can make 12 or 14 pieces. So not huge amounts, but hopefully people will respect the integrity of the work.
Yeah, for sure. And they're large scale pieces too. So it's not like, they're all very involved and very one of a kind. I don't think you don't really repeat exact designs ever, right? Not that I've seen. I mean, maybe there's.
I actually couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what. Oh, you got it right.
No, he's just checking if everything's recording and stuff.
I actually, first of all, it's like reading. I know I keep going, reading a book again. I don't want to read the same book twice. I don't like watching movies twice. And I don't want to make it weave the same. Like someone might say to me, I love this piece. Could it be, keep this in mind. These are the colours. And I'm more than happy to explore that in another way.
Yeah.
But I also, if anyone's bought my work, they deserve to have a unique piece.
Yeah. And also when I look at the evolution of your work, I mean, it's like, it's everything you do and everything you create and the changes you put into things and the experiment, I can see you experimenting with different things. Like, you're doing three dimensions or layering in different ways that, you may not have before. And I think each evolution of the work is like, it's so cool, like why would somebody want the same piece that someone else has, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's an interesting, I mean, I get restless very quickly. Mm-hmm. And, I'm actually going through a restless stage at the moment, which is a good thing. But I suppose I'm coming up to sort of 10 years or something, 10, 11, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. But I think that, I've been exploring with these square works as well, which are very intricate and very lots of time. And but yeah, I want to always keep exploring, and I do enjoy the circles, but I don't want to be stuck in a circle. Right.
Absolutely. But even with what you did with the circles, I feel like there are elements of each one that are just completely different, the way that you approach them. So yeah, I mean, I could understand in one sense that you don't want to have any stagnation in terms or restriction, staying within one certain shape. So I could totally get that. But I have to say and give you kudos, like the way that you have made each one of a kind is amazing. But yeah. Oh, I have to ask you, I recently noticed that you've entered the NFT space.
Yes.
Tell me about it. I'm still kind of like dumb as to what exactly an NFT is. I mean, I know what it is, but I still don't quite understand the process of creating and now that you have created these digital works, what happens now? I don't really know.
It's interesting actually because one of my new friends, NFT friends, because you kind of have your weaving friends, your arty friends, your NFT friends. So I really did meet a beautiful world of a community of people involved in the NFT world. So it is it's a rabbit hole to go into the NFT world. There is so much to understand and learn. It's 24/7 because it's digital and it's kind of, it goes around the clock that people are selling, discussing, buying, or whatever it is. So I think I, again, with my curiosity, sort of saw this was going on, and I was like, well, I just want to investigate it and see what this is about. So I actually connected with a gorgeous guy called Jurien, who's from the Netherlands, and he's a digital artist. And I just, we had a fun conversation. Neither of us really knew about NFTs. We just knew it was sort of happening. We wanted to make sure that, you know, because of the carbon emissions, that we covered that. We went through the right platform. We were both sort of conscious that was a big thing to do. And we just went on this journey of how he could interpret my work digitally. And we kind of threw it around, but I gave him a lot of free rein because I respect his work, and I really connected with him as a person, as I still do. So we have explored it, and we got the wallets. You know, there is so much to do to get yourself set up and understand it. It was like going to like a university in fast speed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It was just so overwhelming. I have to say, I felt like I was always a step behind, and I don't think it comes naturally to me. I feel like our interpretation of my art into digital work has a lot more work to do, but I think it's important to have a look at it. I've probably put it a little bit aside for the moment. We'll come back to it when I'm ready. But you need a lot of energy, a lot of time. There's a lot of community, talking with people. You have to invest a lot into it.
Right.
So you're a lot of energy in.
So the pieces you have up, I mean, they're beautiful. The way that he did interpret, you know, the movement, and I mean, very mesmerizing. And it is kind of what I would think a moving digital work of yours would have to be, you know. I don't know. They're really wonderful. But like so I guess, I don't know. Are they, so they're available to purchase, right?
Yeah. So there's a platform. So there's a whole lot of platforms. There's one called OpenSea, which is kind of pretty much anyone can go on that platform. And so they're on OpenSea, yes. So you can purchase them, and with Ethereum, which is cryptocurrency, and so we sold quite a few of them. I think maybe there's 2 or so left.
Okay.
So we did. So there, a lot of people have them in their MetaMask wallet.
Right.
I know I'm speaking that language. I don't know if you know what that means. So people have bought them, but they're the kind of things you hold onto, like. And there are opportunities that you can like display them on screens or on your phone, or but I'm really only at the tip of the iceberg of it, and something maybe in the future I will look more into. But I think when I go back to right at this moment, that's not really interesting, a lot more to investigate. But again, it's not me being able to physically, digitally do the work.
Right.
And I find
that
frustrating.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But you got paid in Ethereum, is this right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have a digital wallet and all this stuff. Did you set a price, like an Ethereum price, and it wasn't like an auction?
No. Okay. So what we did is we set an Ethereum price, and I mean, I think a lot of people, I think it's important it is happening. It is 100%. Yeah. It is the world in different areas. So I think it's worthwhile to understand it. And I do think I feel honoured and also happy that I've got in so early, because whatever happens with these digital works that we've created, I think they'll be valuable because they are early days.
Yeah.
You know, it's still early days, you know, but it really is the beginning of the next sort of phenomenon. And so I think it's
it for sure is. Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
just
mean,
gotta find the
I was very impressed that, you know, when I was going through your body of work and everything. And I was like, wait a minute, she's in the NFT space. This is crazy. I was so excited to just kind of get an understanding of how that process worked for you. That's very cool. And it's also awesome that they're almost all sold out. I mean, that's phenomenal.
I think the thing for me is that the people that were like, I'm not like, it's a huge community, NFT community, and the people that were interested in my work really are probably more followers of me. So a lot of them bought MetaMask and learnt and got their wallet and bought Ethereum to get them.
Right.
You know, they're not you know, people so much in the NFT space, people who wanted to get into the NFT space.
Right.
And I've used my work as an avenue to do it, which is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. We're all going to have to make the transition eventually. So for you to get that ball rolling, I mean, it's great.
Yeah. But it's a little bit like the jewelry or the weaving. Like, I don't think too much.
Yeah.
I just kind of jump in and then go, oops.
That's good though. See, sometimes people overthink and then they don't take the jump. You know what I mean? Like, everybody prepares for things. They want things to be absolutely perfect before they try something. And that is oftentimes, I think, what hinders progress. You know, sometimes you do just have to close your eyes and pray and jump.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're never going to know if you don't look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You won't know. And I mean, doing these NFTs, I mean, I have watched, similar to, you know, the weaving world or the other world, like all these different worlds. I have watched, like, there's an NFT called World of Women, which is awesome. And I saw it at the beginning. And seriously, at the beginning, I think they were like $200 or something. They're now like millions.
Oh, wow.
Millions. And it's not about the money. It's about watching just the way it evolves. It fascinates me.
It is. I mean, it's completely fascinating. My husband was into cryptocurrency like early. I mean, we're not rich because of it, because he did a lot of selling and a lot of losing passwords and keys or whatever. But yeah, he's always been in it, like interested in those kinds of things really early. So yeah, I've been kind of watching it happen, but I'm like, I feel very lost and still very stuck in like this analog world, you know, where I'm like, I think I'm fighting a little bit because it just seems overwhelming, you know? So I'm glad at least I have him to balance me out and actually take us to the future.
Yeah, it is overwhelming, but I think if you can do it on your terms, you know, and I think though you need a lot of energy to do it. Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of time to like sit and scour through things and learn about it. And I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think what it is, it's a lot about, I think the biggest thing is it's a lot about community, which is beautiful, artists supporting artists or collectors, but it's also not just about the NFT, it's about the utilities. So I'm going to give you a quick example, which hopefully is interesting. So there's an amazing kid, I think he's 19 now, and his name's Ferocious. And he basically is just this, like, he's a genius, and he's created his latest thing is these paint drops. And if you buy the paint drops, then something else is coming around the corner for you. You get the opportunity to buy the next NFT. So it's kind of mixed in with that gaming, utilities. They'll offer you things. You get to then go on special boats or special clubs. So it's kind of not like a different art. There's so much back end and meaning to it beyond, like, it's just a different journey.
Yeah, and the infiniteness of it is, I think, what it's like. It's hard to get my mind around all of that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. But anyway, I think everyone, when they're ready, will explore it. And I think that I don't know. I think for me, I mean, I won't. I just wish I could, weave it digitally.
Yeah. Yep. I know. That's the hardest part, I guess, because you do have to hand it over or learn.
To
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Learn some digital skills. I don't know.
I can't see that happening right now.
I know. I know. I feel your pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, which I think is relevant in the conversation, like another huge key turning point for me in my journey was I was approached by, it's called Mecca, which is a massive company in, I think, Australia. I think just Australian. And they select artists the last 5 or 6 years, Australian female artists that then they represent on their like Christmas packaging,
Oh,
and
wow. Cool.
also the National Gallery of Victoria, they commission pieces to be made for the National Gallery of Victoria.
Wow.
So that happened in 2019, and that was just a huge turning point for me. It's sort of, I think what I loved about it is like everyone was like, people are like, oh, you're just knitting, or which is fine, or what do you mean you're doing weaving or tapestry? And I was like, oh, I just enjoy it. And I always felt a little bit like, it's not so, it's not real, if you know what I mean, in terms of artistic integrity. And I think with the National Gallery of Victoria commissioning those pieces, I just
So
felt
validated.
I was just like, yay, we
Yeah. Yeah.
go for it. Like it needs its place. And it deserves
Absolutely.
it.
That's huge. So did your works went on view there
Mm.
for how long were they up?
About 3 months.
Okay, very nice.
And then they keep them because they purchase them. But yeah,
so do they go into the collection of the National Gallery? That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, I
And
love
I
that.
feel like as fibre artists, textile artists, or whatever we call ourselves, I think that it really is getting the, I don't know, the acknowledgement that it should have. It's a beautiful art form.
Yeah, yeah. That's so wonderful. That's huge. I mean, huge, huge, huge. Congratulations. It's so wonderful.
Thank you. I know I don't how, how I was so, I don't know, just fortunate to have that opportunity, but I'm very grateful for it.
Did you create work specifically for it, or did you already have something that you submitted?
No, I created 4 works for them.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
I just felt I was just having a really beautiful free time. I felt really like it was really fun. I didn't even feel stressed about it. I was like, "Wee, this is good."
Oh, that's so amazing.
But I think you just got to keep that freedom.
Yeah.
I think as art.
Do you have more plans or interest in doing more museum shows?
Good questions. This is another really interesting one. It's really difficult because I'm very fortunate that Instagram's been really like a gallery for me. And
you don't have any work to put up, do you? Because are you just immediately making and selling?
I don't want to do that because I don't think that is. But yes, I probably maybe overcommitted myself a little bit at the moment. So yeah, that is a problem. Like it's about just, a lot of artists won't do commissions. They just will do, they just say, I'm just going to create, and what I have, you can have a look at. And I must say the only thing is that I have been exploring with the squares that I do, and I will continue doing that. So I think that's really what I'd like to develop further, and maybe that may be as an exhibition. But also you've got the dilemma, which we all have, that with Instagram and with galleries, I still think galleries are important, but they take a huge percentage. Understandably, they deserve it because they're running a business, and it's a beautiful acknowledgement, but it's a lot to you've got to get comfortable with that. So I think that's the other thing, but I do think being with a gallery is important.
Yeah. Well, I think the goal would be also that once you are represented by a gallery, the sort of, not that you need it, but I guess, the cachet goes up. So the price point goes up to kind of cover to cover whatever commission they'd be making from it.
Well, the only thing I would say with that, I think Instagram has the respect and the trust, for a lot of people today. There's definitely a lot of art collectors, like huge, who need galleries, but I think there's a lot of people, including myself, who source art from the internet.
Yeah. Me too.
So I think, yes, definitely. But I think the Instagram is, or social media, it's quite phenomenal. Like, I sometimes just think the trust people have for it is incredible. One of my most exciting purchases I had, this was a long time ago, was from Miley Cyrus.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That is very exciting. That's huge.
It was huge. And I don't want to name, but I've had other, celebrities contact me and, DM me or whatever. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way.
No,
I'm just
of
saying,
course not. It's just what it is.
People are comfortable to, they, in some ways they know you more from Instagram than they do just seeing your artwork up in a gallery.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Just take out the middleman.
Yeah, but it really, so they're definitely things I think that it's still really important. I totally agree with that, but it's like, where does it all fit in now?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. Be interesting to see where you take it all. And I love the squares that you're doing, and what you're experimenting with there. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, I just need a little bit more time to do them. It's sort of funny because they're more labor intensive, but they don't look it, which is weird, but it's not always about that. But I think the process of the squares is just, again, it's just intriguing me. It's that less is more kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they're complex.
Do you get into creative ruts, or do you find you always seem to have a flow?
Scary question to answer. I'm trying to jinx myself.
No jinxing.
No, I think I find more that if I just had a few more arms would be really helpful. Like, I wish I could. I feel like I've got them in my brain, but it's here and I don't have enough arms and energy, physical strength. But, so I feel like ideas are just endless, but I can't physically do.
Yeah. I mean,
and energy.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and speaking of physical strength, I mean, weaving is not easy on the body. Do you find yourself, as you're doing more and more like hours of work, and do you need chiropractic treatment, and how are you maintaining your physical form? Because it's hard. It is hard. We all have back problems eventually,
Yeah. I go to a physio 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I have to, just to not for long, just release work and build up strength in the right spots, because I have to look after my body. You have to. We all do.
Yep.
As artists, and so I make that a priority, because I do want to continue what I'm doing for as long as I can. So that's like a investment in myself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What do you do to decompress? Because weaving is therapeutic for a lot of people, but weaving is, when weaving becomes work, sometimes that isn't where you'll do it,
I meditate every day. I do transcendental meditation. Wow. So I've always gone in and out of it, and I have been back to it for quite a while now, and it's just an essential for me. I think it helps my work become better mother, just hopefully better person. I think so. That is really just permission to stop my brain going, because I think as creatives our brains go a little bit overtime sometimes thinking, so meditation, walking, and I love listening to this podcast, especially at the moment, there's a guy called Ram Dass from the
Oh, yeah,
1970s.
yeah. I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love, I love learning just about life, philosophy, and other artists before us. So yeah, I do. That's also. I mean, I often listen to books and things like that when I'm weaving, but I do. Knowledge is, yeah, I find that is really. That's part of my hobby hobbies. You know,
Yeah.
um, walking. I do have walking, but yeah, yeah. I mean, you probably maybe you saw we go a lot to. We've got a boat up in the country, so we spend a lot of
I
time.
had to ask about these images. Like I couldn't figure out if it was your studio or if you had a house directly on a lake. So that's a boat. So that's a boat, because there are some images where you see the giant window in the background, and it is just stunning, the view.
Yeah.
So you're making on the boat.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
God, what a dream.
We try and go up most weekends to this boat, and it's just beautiful. It's just like it is just everything just falls away, and I mean I think that's the other thing, nature. That's my other
Yeah.
space. I mean I'm not sure, for you, like I know weaving is a lot about my emotions. It's a form of expression,
Mm-hmm.
of internally what's going on. Even though I don't know what that is, I feel like it comes out in the
Yeah.
weaving. I always find when I'm at the lake is sometimes when I do my best work.
Yeah. I could totally see why. I mean, it is so gorgeous, that that area. Is that far from where you live?
It's about 2 hours,
Oh,
two and a half
that's not
hours
bad. That's not
drive,
bad at all.
which is, but the drive's also part of the journey because you kind of leave the city and you slowly, more trees, more cows, more greenery, more mountains, and you just wind down. By the time you get there, you kind of, I think if it was too close, it wouldn't be good
Right,
because you have
exactly.
wind down time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm Answer your question. I
yeah.
know I always laugh because my kids say that I skip parts of stories, like just go to the end or the middle. Have I done that at all with you? Or have I been quite
I
clear?
don't think so. I think we've been pretty on a flow path. I'm the same way though. Like I also make a lot of diversions and digressions. So for a podcast host, it's not the greatest quality, but I try to keep us on track a little bit.
I actually love that you do that. Like it's so I forget that we're even on a podcast. I think it's so great what you're doing. And is it hard?
It was at first. And sometimes, I mean, I still like, and I get nervous. I honestly, like before ours, I was like, I was pretty nervous, just because, there are a lot of people I'll talk to where we DM a lot. And so I kind of know them and sort of consider them a friend. And then, like with you, I mean, I have known of you forever and ever, but I just, I just didn't engage that much because I'm like, oh, she's the famous person. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I get nervous, but no, I mean, it's now that I'm sort of, usually we don't have as many technical issues as we had today. So I would say that was probably, that made it harder, but yeah, no, it's, it's an hour and I love doing it because I love bringing focus onto the artist and, I hope more people will listen and learn more about you and follow you if they're not. But I don't know anyone who is not following you. I mean, that's just crazy.
I hope that also I wonder, talking to other artists, if it kind of just like, I find listening to other artists, it always inspires me to go, oh, I'm going to do that, or like, oh yes, I need to just let go more and stop trying to just be freer. And I always feel like that's also a beautiful part of what you're doing on the podcast, because it's giving other artists permission or even inspiration to just give it a go. Like it's okay, and I often find I need that when I kind of get into, that's one thing that keeps me in the flow.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Being inspired by others.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I'm jumping to one other topic here.
Please do.
What are the philosophy on like copying? I'm just curious.
It's hard. Okay, from the position of an artist whose work was copied before, and this is like, I'm not making that much work anymore, since I'm more focused on the shop. But at the time when it happened, I mean, it feels awful when it happened, and when it happens. But it also, I've gone through a lot of evolution in terms of the way I think about it. But I started to realize it depended on who was doing the copying too. So I remember very early on, the first time I was copied, and it was like not for not, like piece by piece. But the girl who sent it was so proud of herself. She was from another country. Like I think she was from like Southeast Asia or something. And she's like, look what I made. And it was like, great. Like, and I think because this was the first time it happened, I was really I was grossed out. It was a terrible feeling. But now when I look back on it, I mean, what a harmless thing to have happened, because it's not like she's going out and making 1,000 of them and trying to sell them. The second time it happened, it was an Australian person who ended up, I guess she was selling them as her own, but what she had done was bought them from some shop in Indonesia. And so she was selling them in mass, but selling them as handmade items that were hers on Etsy.
So she got an Indonesian shop to copy your work.
Yes. So right. I don't know. I don't know if she commissioned them, or if they just copied it. They find images online. But then she bought them in bulk and then sold them as her own handmade pieces. So I was like, that was gross. I don't know. I hated it. Right. Really hated that. And the next one was, I mean, this is just concept, but like, when I came out with like the cloud loom, I don't know if you know about it, but it was like a cloud shaped loom. And I'm pretty sure I was the first person to do that. And then, so a lot of people after that came out with those, which was, that is what it is. It's not like I had a patent on it. But it's the large company. When the large companies do it, I mean, that's obviously, it just pisses me off. Like Anthropology and Free People, I think they're notorious for doing that and undercutting the artist and not even giving them any credit, which, really sucks. But then I have to come from so this continues to evolve. Then as someone who supplies fiber, I see a lot of where I think the first idea came from. And then I see other people make that piece, like make something similar. And what I think ultimately is that everyone is on a journey. And sometimes that journey will overlap because everybody's learning. So what I think more people need to learn is to not post those things because they're not original. They can learn from them and they can make them because they need to get to understand how to, they need to understand different techniques, and maybe they get better at doing a certain thing. But when a piece is looking exactly like another person's piece, I mean, that's just completely unacceptable, to then profit off of it. And from your position, because I think your look it's iconic, and I think everybody kind of recognizes it as yours. I don't know. I kind of want to throw the question back to you. How do you feel about it?
I'm so glad I asked you, because thank you. And it's really interesting hearing your journey with it and how you feel about it. And I think I would like to preface, this conversation, because I think it's an important one to have. And the reason I'm actually bringing it up, because there's a ceramicist who I follow, and he's actually put on his Instagram and he's written an article about it. And I think it's a really difficult, interesting topic, and probably become more prevalent with Instagram and social media. So I think that probably early on I would try and I would get really uncomfortable and territorial of it, because I kind of felt like I remember rolling around the ground trying to make this circle. Like, I don't know. I mean, and I also think I'm also a realistic that, ideas are always from somewhere, but I can honestly say I felt it was just a very pure kind of, I didn't see anything. Like it came, I know, from my brain. Maybe my brain saw something, but that was okay. But then people would sort of do it and very mixed. Some would send it to me and go, hey, look what I did. I'm like, cool, that's great. And, like, which is good, like from 4-year-old kinder teachers in other countries in the world, teaching their kids, and from university students and all of that, or people sharing, just learning, and cool. And thank you for thanking me. Like, I really appreciate reaching out or acknowledging that they've been inspired by my work.
Yes.
Like, that is really, I feel honored, and I feel like just so, like, fortunate that it's giving other people pleasure. So that's kind of the good. I feel better when I feel that, when people are creating it. And like it was in a museum in Peru. Remember, that was one I tackled, and I was just like, you're a museum, and you're actually, like, what's the word, like, representing this artist who's
Right.
like doing my work. Like, that like hurts. And also so when it's in like formal settings like that, or when people are, there was someone on Instagram that Instagram posted their work. There's another company in Australia who's got an artist who is taking it as though it's theirs. And, I always just say, be the bigger person as best as you can. And whenever I have tried to confront it,
it never works well.
I just get abused.
Yeah.
And also I understand, like, it's like, I don't own anything. Of course I don't. And I always just want to come as best as I can from a generous place. If maybe my creativity has inspired someone, and if they're selling it, it's like their own. And I think a lot of the time they truly believe that. I don't understand. Like,
I think some people, and in some instances, I think we're doing so much scrolling that you don't even realize that the images are getting into your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's different when it's exact. Like when you're like,
like there's this one recently. So I generally just go like, and people often will, it's amazing. And I feel so like I honestly feel like it's like how incredible that people are inspired by your work or want to do your work. So I think it's probably more positive than negative. But just recently there was an Australian company and a lady on it. Like, honestly, like I showed it to my kids, like, because I was looking, I was like, why is my work on that website? I haven't, like, it's not my work. And I showed my kids, like, oh my God, Mum, is that not yours? Like, it was ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
And it devalues it. It's just so much negative energy about it, and they're selling it, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong. But you know what? It's not my problem. That's where I come to. It's not my problem. Like, if you're comfortable doing that, well, that's your problem.
Right.
You don't.
I think you're right. You're right. And I have to say, I truly think, like, with the idea of everybody being on their own journey, and sometimes and some of those pieces are going to overlap. I don't think they're going to stay there. Like, I think I think like right now you're evolving into working and playing around with squares in a very specific way. And that person, I don't think is going to follow you on that path. They could. They very well could, because fucking some people have got balls. But I think, and I hope in most cases they'll go a different way, because otherwise it's just, the blatant unethical kind of psychotic behavior. It's like single white female. I don't even remember the movie from the 80s. But then it would just got to be crazy.
That is a really good point. And I always do say that you just keep working harder and more interesting and exploring it. Like, you're much better to focus your energy on that.
Yeah. Also because you have your brain and they don't have your brain. Like, they have their brain. So I have to believe that at some point it just separates,
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think it's, I always think all these kind of, you've got to just be comfortable in your own skin and what you're doing and stay in your own lane, and you can't control anything. So yeah, you've got to just breathe and
Hmm.
go and just refocus. So
Right,
again,
right.
just it's you just grow from it. But it is a really interesting, and I'm going to put something out there. You know what you should do one day on your podcast? And also, I know we don't know each other that well, but I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Oh,
It's
thank
so
you.
so needed in this world, these discussions. But it'd be so nice one day if you got a group of maybe Juju Just. I don't know if you've
I
interviewed
have.
Vanessa Barra.
I have. I love Judith. Yeah.
Love. I'm going to put out there maybe Juju Just, Vanessa, myself. I don't know, maybe more than just one of us and yourself, and just
Oh,
have
yeah.
about these topics. These really, I don't know, just some
Yeah, it's a great
interesting
idea.
topics that, yeah, it would be just really fascinating because I feel like we're all, what's the word? Maybe Meg, we've come through the
Right,
ranks.
right. And well, I mean, and there are some topics that I think are so sticky that I don't want to tackle myself, that I would love to have more voices in on it, like
Yeah,
appropriation and things like that. Um,
yeah,
because I don't know about sticky, they're just hard to talk about. And
yeah.
I don't have enough knowledge to do it with any mastery. So yeah, I mean, I think
Mm.
you're right. I think that's such a good idea to have like several people in on the conversation and to just, have a little,
Nut it out, hear the different points of view, and everyone's got to be, I mean, I know Vanessa's had people, and
Are you talking about
Judith, is it?
Barago?
Yeah.
I reached out to her actually to just to interview her
Mm.
for the podcast. I never got a response, but
Oh, so Vanessa did get back to you.
mm-mm.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you talk
Well,
to her a lot, you can mention it.
I will send her a little message just saying I had a beautiful conversation with you. So, I mean, I don't know, like she's got like 20 people working for her. Like
Yeah, I kind of
she's,
figured it. Like went into the studio abyss email or whatever.
yeah. And I think also she's much more, what's the word? Yeah, I'm kind of at home. I might not, like, I'm just a bit more, I don't know, but it's also where you're at. Like, definitely reach out again because it's where you're at, what's going on in your mind. Like,
Oh,
sometimes I
totally.
always try to do the right thing because I just feel like I hate when people don't do the right thing by me. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not good
Yeah.
for your self-esteem. It's like, so whenever I get something, I do my best. But I get sometimes you don't have a chance. But I mean, even if it's not Vanessa, but I think, things like, yeah, difficult topics like that. Um, and, I suppose you'd have to give everyone the right if they were going to be open and comfortable that if there was something that they didn't want you to
Yeah,
share,
that we would
you know,
edit.
it's got to be that balance of like, let's just have a really constructive, open conversation with sharing, with others. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see if the others, but I would be up for it because I sometimes think like, oh, what, like, was in like, what, how do others navigate this?
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
You know,
and I'm thinking about it, and I think like the practical part of our brains are saying don't give it any time or energy because there's truly nothing you can do about
mm,
it. But the
mm,
very human reaction is like, I mean, it's like a gut punch. It's like why did they have to do it? And it's almost impossible to not feel something about it. But to
yeah.
just, I think you just have to not let it affect you and your work.
No,
I think that's,
the other thing that happens to me is, do you know how many people send me direct messages going, this person's copying your work,
oh, I know.
which is really lovely.
But
But I
don't
also
show
wish, like,
me. Yeah,
don't tell me. I don't want to know.
I
Like, it's
know.
okay. And I generally, my response is like, I'll just, and which my attitude is, you have to just keep, as you're going on your journey, if they copy your work and then do a podcast, okay, well, it's a bit like you saying to me, well, you're really now, stepping on my turf. But I think, yeah, you've just got to keep feeling confident in what you're doing, and they can only, yeah, copy so much. And, and as you said before, I think it's really valid. Like sometimes I don't think they even consciously realize
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No, I
that
think
fine
you're
line
right.
and not actually just, you know. And the other thing I was just going to say, I think for the people copying as well, I don't think it's good for their souls, their creative souls.
I know. I think you're right. And I think they know it too. I do think deep down, they do know it, you know?
Maybe. Anyway,
Yeah.
very interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
I know. It's a hard topic. That and yeah, there are a lot of kind of issues in our space that I think maybe don't even really have answers to them, but to talk about them just kind of helps to also know that everybody goes through it and feels it, and it's something that we all wrestle with, you know?
Yeah. I think it is. It's just an awareness of it. But I have to say, whenever I see people post something aggressive about someone, it's just not good energy.
I know.
Like, I never look at it and go like, yeah. Like, I just always feel like, it's just dirty laundry.
I know. It's,
you know.
No, and you're right. I mean, and the problem with that too is that you're giving it too much weight, and so it weighs, but it weighs yourself down. The more you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe for some people it's actually therapeutic to put it out, but I would say because then it's inviting people to comment on it, and the energy that it creates around that, it just gets bigger and snowballs. So then it's just overall not the healthiest way.
And rip it up.
Exactly. Yeah, write it down. That's exactly it. Write it down and rip it up. Yeah. Paper's good. Everything lasts forever in the digital space. So like, you can't, don't put it out there.
You just rip it up. That's so true.
Yeah.
But just so lovely, like talking to you. And I feel like the university this discussion just happened at a really good time for me. I just, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I mean, for saying yes to chatting with me. I'm telling you, I was very nervous to ask too. I was like, I hope she says yes.
Oh, pleasure. Well, have a good day.
All right.
And, we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks again.
Check the show notes of each episode to get the website and Instagram for each of the fiber artists I speak with. Be sure to give them a follow. And you can view video from this podcast on neromastudio.com/thefiberartistpodcast. If you enjoy the Fiber Artist Podcast, go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening.